Right, so hi everybody. So welcome to our last design lecture in form, speaking of the Jubilee. So thanks for being with us. I know that it is almost the end of the semester, so you're your projects. So thanks even more for being here today. So today we have Paolo Mezzalama with us. An architect, the founding member and partner of ITS, a pretty famous architecture firm in Rome. The studio does a lot of research and innovation-oriented architecture since 2016. It was founded by Alessandro Cambi, Francesco Marinelli, and Paolo Mezzalama, who's here with us. They have an office here in Rome and in Paris. It works on projects at various scales, from urban planning to design. The principal completed and ongoing projects in Rome included the redevelopment of Piazza dei Cinquecento and the urban space in front of the Termini Station in Rome. They won several awards, including, I decided to mention it, the C40 Reinventing Cities in Rome 2023 at the Ex-Filanda. It's a project on housing, education, research, and tourist accommodation currently under development. I wanted to mention this because our students are participating in the C40 Student Award competition. It researches the uniqueness of architecture through its relationship with its surrounding environment, investigating new balance between man and spaces. They say we want to create a new aesthetics of life through architecture based on an emotional ecology. Today, Paolo Mezzalama will give a lecture entitled Rethinking Rome's Public Space, a challenge to reposition humans and nature at the heart of city life. So the content of the lecture is all about piazzas. Historically, piazzas have been the soul of Italian cities, both socially and culturally. Today, however, the public space system is partially compromised by the constant presence of cars, we know this very well, lack of maintenance, and the absence of natural elements, an increasingly essential component of the face of climate change. The major construction projects linked to the Jubilee of Hope offer an opportunity to rethink certain areas of Rome, to reimagine a network of piazzas and public spaces with a contemporary approach, placing humans and nature once again at the center of our vision. So I'm very happy that Paolo accepted our invitation. So he will talk about public spaces in Rome, once again, an interesting topic for many of you, especially for your studio projects. So I now give the stage to Paolo, and once again, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks to you for the invitation. So, well, you said everything, so I can go. No, I'm very happy to be here. Today I will take only half an hour because we're talking just of the public spaces. I know that it won't happen, but I'd like to be interrupted for question on everything. I know it's very difficult, but if some of you is brave, please do it. And that's it. So maybe let's start. Okay, so the presentation is composed in two parts. The first part is on the Jubilee intervention, and the second part is on Piazza dei Cinquecento, so in front of Termini, who's not a Jubilee intervention. It started before, and it will end after. I think that you're here in Rome since a few months, so you know the mess that we are all living. And imagine working in this mess. So you will notice it in the project. Everything has been done in a rush, not completed, still going on. So it's interesting, but also quite complex. So as you perfectly said, when we do public spaces, we are trying to understand how the public spaces should be done today. Because of course, we had a lot of changes. The typical piazza, if we're talking about Rome, the typical piazza romana has no trees, is done by San Pietrini and everything. But this is something that it's not possible anymore because of the climate change and also because of the evolution of the society. Public space today have to be something different. And so the research that we did in these years was really trying to understand what we should do today to develop new public spaces. And I think that the most important aspect is the social aspect. I mean, the Piazza today, more than, I mean, it has always been like this, but they still have to be places of encounters, of exchange, of life. And so this is one of the most important aspects. And of course, it can evolve. I mean, you can do it in different ways. I mean, this is a beautiful picture that you, of course, you know better than me. I took this example of Central Park because I'm sure that you know the story because you come from the States, but I always found the story so interesting. Building Manhattan at the end of the 19th century, they were building everywhere. So the city, the mayor of the city said, no, now we have to stop. He went to all the construction firms and said, we have to find a solution because it's becoming too dense. And so I decided that you won't build in the square that became Central Park. As you can imagine, the reaction were like typical angry, you know, because it was like a lack of money and everything. But they kept the point, and at the end, they did this beautiful place, who's really, I would say, a social hub, and then of course for nature and everything. But the result was that the private, so the developers, had the prices of the buildings raised in a very fast way. So they were happy. I mean, it's kind of win-win between public and private. So, and also the demonstration that if you want to do things in the city, sometimes you have to be very strict and you have to say, it's like this, and you have to trust me. Because if you listen too much to all the people, you will never do anything, especially if you listen to the cabs drivers in Rome. So the first projects that I'm showing you, they're like composing a system. We are nearby the Vaticano, and they represent, with the exclusion, of course, of Via della Conciliazione, the access to the Vatican City. This is the Stazione San Pietro, so maybe you know it. So from the Stazione San Pietro and from the metro of Via Ottaviano. Our keywords are very simple, you talked about it. So water, lighting, nature, sustainability, and everything. So what's the concept strategy? The concept strategy is always the same in all our projects. First of all, trying to take off the cars. This is super important. Trying to take off the cars and bringing pedestrian spaces and nature. And then the environment strategy, who's based on the fact that you have to create greenery, you have to do permeable soils so the water can go on the ground, you have to create shade because it's always warmer. And so in all the projects that you will see, there's more nature, more shade, more place for water, and more social spaces. And of course, the furnitures for the tourists and everything, so bicycle, water, and everything. This is a typical example of a small island that we created, an island where you can sit, you can rest, where you can collect the water, where you can have information on the city, and where people can socialize. So let's start by Via Ottaviano, because it's I would say that it's, no, it's not the only one of the two projects that are already finished. So Via Ottaviano, it's a commercial street that brings to Piazza Risorgimento, so that brings to the Vatican City, and you have the exit of the metro station, so it's super dense. Via Ottaviano is also a commercial street, but it has always been, since ever until Christmas, invaded by the cars. So what we decided to do is to take off the cars. So now when we took the project, the pedestrian had the 28% of the space, that means nearby the shops, and all the rest was cars. So we decided to enlarge the pedestrian part and to keep just a service street for the vehicles who can't go there. They only can go for exchange with the shops in the morning. And then you have, of course, the tramway. This allowed us to bring the nature inside and to create these little islands that I showed you before. So to transform Via Ottaviano not in a space where you park your car, you get out, you go to the shop, you take something, you take your car and you go away, or you walk, get in the shops and you go away, but a place where you can stay. And what's really interesting is that we had to fight. We had to fight a lot because all the owners of the commercial shops didn't want the project, because they said, oh, but if the car can't stop in front of my shop, I won't sell and everything. So it has been, the political management of this project has been very difficult. They also interrupted the construction once when Gualtieri was there. And I have to say that he has been, he managed the people who were super angry I was quite amazed. And so it was a mess. But then from the moment where we open it, it has always been crowded of people from the first day to now. And the shops increased the revenues of 15%. So now everybody's happy. So that was before and that was after. These all the studies that we did, of course, for the islands. So you can see that in the center, you have the green part, and then you can park your bicycle here, you can sit and stay there. So this is how it was. And this is how it's now. Well, this is a picture from really the beginning. So now the trees are becoming a little bit higher and more green. And this is how people use the spaces. Maybe someone of you went there, I don't know. And that's the other part. So we are on the other side of the Vatican City, looking to St. Peter on the left. And this is a project that is quite a surprise, because it's a project based on a place that nobody really used to know. Me neither, the Roman neither. And this is the entrance of the Vatican City, called Santa Marta, where the Pope lives. And if you see the trees that are here, this is the way you come from the Stazione San Pietro. So it's a place who was without identity, that has been, the idea was to take the people coming from the Stazione San Pietro and bringing to the Vatican with a public pedestrian path. And if you never went there, I really suggest you to go and have a walk, because it's super fascinating. This is the station San Pietro. And you have this path who's called Passeggiata del Gelsomino, that is nearby the railway, who was the railway going inside the Vatican. I mean, you have the train that can get in the Vatican, and nobody knows it, by the way, but it's still there. And if you go on Google Earth and you look at the place from Google Earth, you will see that there's a train and parked here, because you still have the train of the Pope. It was used to go from the Vatican to Castel Gandolfo, that was the summer residence of the Pope. Now they go with the helicopter, so it's not used anymore, but the railway is still there. And it's a beautiful path, because you can see, of course, from here, you see San Pietro. It's a surprise that nobody knows. So the idea has been to reconnect Santa Marta, of course, to the Stazione San Pietro, so everybody can come, walk, and go down to San Pietro. Here, always the same thing. We decided to take off the cars and keep space for the greenery, and take off space to the cars to give it for people. That's, it's quite simple. No? Said like this, it seems very simple, but then when you do it, it's not so easy. And the project is the same project of Via Ottaviano. So we have the same idea of bringing these little islands of where you can have a pause in the city, create a public space where the kids can play and everything. So that was the beginning. So the cars were parked in front of the walls of the Vatican City. Now, of course, it's a public space, so the cars can just go here. How it was, how we imagine it, and how it is. It has just been open 1 week ago. So I think that, like all these public spaces, we have to give some time for the greenery to grow and everything. I also have to say that the trees that they decided to plant are a little bit small, but and then the other one, Piazza Risorgimento. Piazza Risorgimento is the third place of the system, and it's the most complex one, but also the most problematic, because what happened in Piazza Risorgimento? Piazza Risorgimento, we did the project. The idea is to allow all the parents going out from San Pietro to join the Vatican Museum, who's here, with a pedestrian area in the middle, a public space, and everything. Because right now, Piazza Risorgimento, it's like, how do you call una rotonda? Yeah, exactly. The problem is that the city spent really tons of time discussing about the project with everybody. So when they decided and they said, okay, now you go on the project, it has to be finished for the Jubilee, we said, no way. So the project will be done after the Jubilee. And what you see right now in Piazza Risorgimento, it's something that you could call a little bit of tactical design. I mean, something that we did to experiment a couple of things of the working of the square. And then if it works, it will be confirmed on the final project that will start next year. Should start next year. Because we're always in Rome wasn't built in a day, no? Still like this. So this is the piazza. The piazza that, by the way, was a very nice one, because when you just had a few cars in the city, it used to work very well, because also the space used by the cars was quite empty. So the concept was a good concept for this period. Now it's a mess. Again, always the same idea. 52% right now of pedestrian area, 75 at the end of the project. What's really important is that the pedestrian area will come and touch the Vatican walls. So the cars can't go here anymore. So this allows you to live in a safe way all the public space. I mean, the kids can play with the ball. And then, of course, more trees, more shade. And that's the beautiful work that the landscaper did. This is, he took all the old trees, made an analysis to see all the species and everything. And that's the new project. So we keep almost all the existing trees, but we have 68 new trees divided by all the Acero, Jingo, I mean, the Roman trees. And we will join the goal of 100 trees. And that's the permal surface, who right now it's just in these 3 small aiuole, as you say in Italian, and it will become 3 times what we have today. And this is how it will work. So Via Ottaviano, that's already working. The cars that come from here and can only go that way, and all the public space nearby the Vatican City. So people coming from San Pietro, they can come in the square, stay here, leave it, and then go to the Vatican Museum. This is the analysis of the existing conditions. And this is how the space will be used. So we have 2 small buildings, service buildings, an empty space for the events, and then the trees. And as you will see, the trees are always side of the cars, so to protect the area also from the noise. Of course, the floor gradients and shades. And this is the final design. So public space, water, the 2 service buildings, and the rest is greenery. This is what I was saying about the noise pollution. The noise pollution, of course, if you protect from the street, the impact on the part that is empty, it's totally different from now. And then, of course, the result with the heat island, who becomes smaller. That's a render, how it will be. We also have a fountain for the kids. These are one of the 2 buildings for the services of the square. The people come here from the Vatican or from the Ottaviano, and they can leave the square. So what we did now, the temporary project. So the temporary project is experimenting the new vehicular, the new, how do you say, vehicular strategy. And this is the existing greenery. But what we did, we took off all the asphalt from this side, and we put this kind of ground who let the water get inside the ground. And we, of course, we put a little bit more of trees and everything. So this is how right now you can see it. It's halfway to the project, but I have to say that also if it's halfway to the project, it becomes to be very used. So means 2 things. First one is that the the vehicular strategy is working, and then that the piazza is already used. Of course, everything is temporary, so it will go out after that the Jubilee will finish. And then the last project. This is the first of the project that you saw, because all the strategy that you saw on the other one is born with the project of Piazza di Cinquecento. Piazza di Cinquecento, I think it's one of the most challenging projects that we ever did. First of all, because it's enormous. It's a part of the city. Second, because it's a mess. And you have to manage the cabs, you have to manage the buses, you have to manage the social aspect who are very hard nearby the station. I think that you have noticed it, and everything. So what's happening today? I mean, no, not anymore, but what was happening before? When you get out from the station, you never cross Piazza di Cinquecento. It was like just to take the bus. It was like kind of, I mean, nobody would do it. But on the other side of Piazza di Cinquecento, you have the Museo Romano, who's one of the most beautiful museums in Rome, and it's the entrance to the center. So it was really, I mean, there was no way to keep Piazza di Cinquecento like it was, like a gigantic parking. So what we decided, well, this is how it was. You would never cross this mess. There was also a coffee hub here, if you remember it. So what we did, just to say, this is all the stuff that we have underground. So this is the station. Underground, we have the subway. So this part, you can't put trees because you have the subway. This is already the archaeological part, here and here. So what we did, first of all, we decided that Piazza di Cinquecento had to become an entrance to the city. And this was, I mean, no, quite easy to observe it. Then we did the analysis of the mobility. Consider that the team who worked in Piazza di Cinquecento, it's a team made of tons of people, because engineers for everything, sustainability, vehicular, buses, the tramway that will come here. I mean, we were like tons of people working on it. And so we understood that, first of all, the 99% of the ground was asphalt. So this was the first big problem. The greenery was, I would say, inexisting. There was nothing. And the services were really just a few. So we decided to bring the permeable soil to ground to 40% and have 35% of the surface for a garden that it's still not there, and free from the cars, the central part of the square. Then we did an analysis of how the water could go to the ground. Consider that we couldn't do it here in this part because we have the underground that going. So from the half of the square to the museum, we started planting trees. And that's the first renders of how the piazza will be. I have to say that the construction is not what we expected, like always, but the main idea of all the choices that we made are respected. So right now, if you get out of the Stazione Termini, you can see that this first part is pedestrian. You still don't have the water. The buses are here, and they are finishing it piece from piece. So this is the final project. So you see, we have a public space in the middle. The buses are only here in this part. Here is everything is free, so you can go to the museum and enter in Rome. This part have been redone also. So for the pedestrian, it's a new path. The cabs are only on the right side of the station when you go out, and this will be the garden. Of course, it's in the center of Rome at the exit of the train station. So we imagine that it's a place that will be lived also for events. We studied a lot of new uses and function that the space could accept. What you see here, it's the tunnel of the subway. And we have a bike hub in the middle of the piazza. So cafeteria at the first floor and bike hub on the underground. So the flooring, this is all the study that we did on the composition of the soil. And that's all the Roman kind of trees. And we studied it, and the project that we did for the new Arboreto is exactly inspired of what the Roman used to do. So we studied the different trees, how they behave during the different timing of the year, so the different seasons, sorry. And that's the final cross-section. So you see Termini here. The first part, it's the public space where you can't have greenery because you have the subway. And then it becomes always more green. And this part is the part where you will really have a garden. It's a view from the garden. This is the bike hub. And that's how it will be in the different seasons. So in winter, of course, less green, and then in the summer, more protected. That's the render, of course. The buses are concentrated here, the cabs are concentrated here, and the tram will arrive here. So they started doing the first parts. So the first one is the bus the bus hub. They started doing the part in front of the station. And slowly we will finish it. That's it.
Thanks a lot, Paolo. It was very interesting because I'm sure that all the students, they kind of know the spaces that you were speaking about. I'm quite sure that you all had a chance to walk along Via Ottaviano, maybe every day going and coming back from the Rome Center. And they know absolutely the space in front of the Termini Station because you've stepped in several times and on and on and on. So you're speaking about spaces that in a way or another the students had to experience. So I think this is very nice to see the story told by the designers. Before I read the questions that the students submitted, I also have some questions myself. And the first might be also useful to them because many students are dealing with street design, streetscape design. And the question is about the Via Ottaviano. You told us about the main axis, which is pedestrian, but then the street itself, it's meeting the other streets on the transversal side, which are still vehicular. And so how is this relationship working? Pedestrians have been killed by cars, or what happens? No. This could be interesting because it's a topic for, you know, they tend to give, still to give a lot of space to the cars, while the tendency now it's to give the space back to the citizens. And so that's my question about. Let's see if I can go back a little bit. I wanted to.
Yeah. No, they're not, because we used a little escamotage. So the level of the streets is lower than the level of the Ottaviano. So we create like the dumps. It's so the car can't really I mean, it can arrive to Via Ottaviano, but it has to go very slowly. Yeah,
Oops.
You can see it here.
Yes, maybe.
Sure.
Yes.
Yes, You see it here. From this level to the level of Via Ottaviano, you have 20, 30 centimeters of dump.
Yes.
So the car who wants to cross has to cross very slowly, or it will break.
Okay, so the only difference the cars will see will be the difference in materialization and this little bump.
Exactly. And
yes.
It's kind of enough.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working.
This was my question, because it happened to me to drive that street, and I was like, will I be killing somebody?
You see it here.
Yes.
So when you're coming by car, the fact that you have this difference of height, you can't go fast. You have to go very slowly, or you will destroy your car. So it's a very simple escamotage.
I'm very surprised, because Romans are not very respectful when they drive cars. And so I would say it's a miracle, the one that is happening along Via Ottaviano. There were many students interested in your material choices. Very often in your lecture, you mentioned permeable materials. So can you speak about this?
Well, we always work with the Roman stones. So the stones that we choose are nearby Rome. So the travertino, of course, when we need a white one because it's clear for the sun and everything. When we need a darker one, it's the basalto, the one of the San Pietrini. And then what we try to do, and then when we want something that allows to the water to go down, you have this new technology of stabilized ground that allow the water to go down. So it's a mixed. And then if you have seen in Termini, when we want the water to go down, between one stone to the other one, we leave a little bit of space. So that the water can go from a stone to the other and get in the ground.
So this will improve permeability?
Yes.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a very good thing.
Yeah, this is, let me see. Yeah, this is the study that we did with the landscaper, Luca Catalano, by the way, who's another product of our university.
Yes, actually, that's why the name sounds really familiar.
He's like a poet. Let me see. If we go to Termini, I think we had a couple of drawings that show it a little bit. But you can go on with the next question.
Yes, I was making a selection. There were a number of students interested in how can you match the innovative design of a new square design with the tradition, the archaeology, if you had to deal with it or not.
You always have to deal, but not only in the public spaces. I mean, Rome, the history of Rome, it's dealing with the story. I think that's the reason why we're not scared about the story. Sorry, I did something. I don't know.
No, it's fine. It's the platform.
Okay, we will find it. Well, this is something that, as a Roman architect, you have to know. I mean, you learn it when you're at the university. We always deal with story. Dealing with story means that you always have to do an analysis of what you're dealing with, and then make choices. The choices are not only because there's this big misunderstanding that a lot of people think that what's most ancient is better. This is a big misunderstanding. I mean, you have to really get in the story, try to understand it, and then you decide if it's something worth it or not, because not everything in the different periods that we had in Rome was to be kept. I mean, you have to make choices. And this is something that you do when you do buildings in the center of Rome, that we did quite a lot. Something that you do when you imagine the public spaces. So it's a mix between a respect, but also the idea that, like always, you have to leave your trace, a trace that, of course, is respectful, and it's the result of a huge work, but you have to do it. If you don't do it, you have lost against the history.
Yeah, and this is like the approach that all our guests followed so far. So it seems like to build up a kind of a Roman approach to the city or public spaces in general. I think there's somebody willing to ask a question. I'm very happy. Thanks for doing this, but you need the microphone.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of that question, for like trees and things like that, do you have to do some kind of more analysis to make sure that it doesn't cause damage to what's underneath with the roots and things like that? Or is that something that's kind of, you don't have to worry about?
Yeah, absolutely. You know that Rome, it's made most of these beautiful pines that you find everywhere in Villa Borghese. Now the image of Rome, of the ancient Rome, is done with pines. For example, the pines, you can't use it anymore because they destroy everything that they found in the ground. So in our project of Piazza Cinquecento, the only pines that we have are the ones that were there, but all the other trees are from different species. Of course, always Roman species, because you have to, they have to be, how do you say autochtono in English?
Maybe autochthonous is a word that you know?
That makes sense for you? Well, it means that they come from this region. So of course, it's a work that you have to do.
Ok, non mi funziona questo qui. Yes. Thanks, Paolo. There was a student interested in trying to understand how the values and the philosophy of your studio is reflected in the projects that you explained today. This is a tough question, but it means that somebody wanted to know more about it.
It's not so tough. Our studio is, I think it's well organized in research. So we constantly have researching work that we develop, and then we try to bring into the project. So when you look to our project, you will they reflect a lot of thematics and problematics that has been studied before. For example, all the social aspects that in the public space are quite something that you have to manage from the beginning, or all the thematic that I spoke about the water, where the water goes, about the shade. This is something that is part of our research, and then when we go into the project, we try to bring it. Of course, we're not able to bring the 100% of the research in our project, but we always try to put a little bit inside. So it can be reused, for example, with the buildings. It can be reused, for example, something that we do a lot in the buildings, and that's it.
Okay, great. I think there was somebody also interested in trying to understand, since we invited several people this semester, but they were all in charge with one single project, while you had a chance to work on several spots, highlights of the city. And so it was like a great opportunity, but on the other hand, a lot of responsibility. And the students were interested in trying to understand if you felt a little bit of pressure in being in the between of this big debate.
Well, we are always under pressure, but who's not under pressure? Something that I started my firm with my two partners in 2004. So now it's 20 years that I do this job. we are 40 people divided from Rome to Paris. By the way, we worked in the States in 2009 in Los Angeles. Yes, there's a pressure. Of course, there's a pressure. But I think that what's nice is that when you have, like what happened to us with the Jubilee, when you have the possibility to experimenting your research in different projects, this is super nice because as you can see in all the projects, you can find always the same subjects. So you really have the opportunity to understand and to understand if your thoughts were good, if they work, which part you can reuse, which part is less solid in a researching point of view. And so, no, I have to say that managing more projects with the same subject, it's something super interesting. I mean, it's better than doing it in just one project.
Yeah, and actually what is interesting of the 3 projects around St. Peter's is that you had a chance to work in a system of spaces, which is something we're sharing with our students over and over and over. Your project is part of a system. And so thanks God you could explain a piece of a system.
Yes, of course. And then you can, it's nice because if you do a walk nearby the Vatican, so you start from the Passeggiata del Gelsomino, then you go down and you go to Via Ottaviano, no? I mean, you notice that there's the same hand. With the exception maybe of Piazza Risorgimento, who's still not done. So this is great. This is nice. I mean, I would say the only thing that it's a little bit frustrating is that the city lost tons of time to make decision, and then when they write to you, everything is compressed. So, but it's compressed for you. It's compressed for the construction firms. So what's really a pity is that with a little bit more of project management and of intelligence, I would say, the project could land in a better way.
Yeah, I can understand. We have a very direct question in front ahead.
In France, it works better.
Ah, yes. Yes, I can expect that. Yes. But in France, it's not Italy, so it's, yeah. I know. It's a different debate. So somebody was asking, who's paying for the projects?
But everything is public. So Stazione Termini, it's paid part from the railway station because the public space in front of the station, it's not property of the city, but it's property of the railway station. And so it's part city and part railway station. And Jubileo, it's all the budget that has been kept for the Jubileo. So it's the Comune di Roma who received money from the state.
Okay, so that's why there were lots of money and opportunities to redesign those spaces, which were, by the way, waiting for solutions since decades.
But you know that we will have another Jubilee quite now, because it will be a special one for 2033.
Oh, that's great. So other money come?
I think so.
I hope so. So there will be other opportunities to work. I'm sorry.
I think so, and I
this
hope
this seems to be a horrible comment, but Rome is a city which doesn't really move on much in terms of architecture and design and regeneration.
No, it's a city that doesn't have enough money.
No, and so whenever there is a source, an opportunity to do some things, everybody is excited. And that's part of the game.
But in 8 years, we will have a special Jubilee. I think more important because 2033. So I mean,
but it's only 8 years' time.
It's
only
the age of Christ.
All right. Stuff. Yes, a lot of stuff to do, and I hope a lot of projects for everybody. There is one more question, and then we close this session. And somebody was asking if you are satisfied about how people are using your spaces.
A lot.
Yes.
That's the most. This is the part that we really are grateful, because Via Ottaviano, as I was telling, since the first moment, it worked in an amazing way. Always crowded of people. I mean, sometimes in the weekends it's like Via Corso. So,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Piazza Risorgimento, it's a tactical design, but still, if you go there, you will see people and you will see kids playing and everything. Termini, no, we have to wait because
it's early.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's too early because they have to finish the part in front and they have to finish the trees. So
Yes.
Termini, I couldn't say. The only thing that I can say is that the people that take the buses are happy.
Of course.
But the
Yes.
cabs driver are not.
No?
So it means that the project is good.
Okay, yes, then this is a good compromise. It's great. All right, is there any question from you guys? All right, if not, I'm going to close this section. And I
Thank
want to...
you so much for
yes,
listening.
yes.
And good luck for your project. No?
Yes, they have the exams next week. And actually, I'm sure somebody will pick up a number of ideas.
I hope so.
Yes, and
If you
also the
have
way
time to,
he presented his drawings, there were a number of diagrams and schemes, very, very powerful. So it could be useful to a lot of people.
If you want to steal, go on the website, go on Instagram. You have tons of materials that you can steal. We are open source.
That's great. So Paolo, thanks again. It was really nice to have you here. It was a pleasure. And so
good luck
thanks again. Okay. Bye, everybody. So it was the last one. Good luck for your exams next week. Ciao, ciao. Bye.